I'm happy to be joined by Mila today, who is a college student that I met at America Fest. How are you doing today?
I'm doing all right.
You're my last interview while I'm in Phoenix, Arizona, so let's make this a good one.
All right.
So take us through a little bit. Um, you're from California, if I'm correct.
Yes.
You currently go to Stanford.
I just transferred as a CME student from Stanford, and now I'm going to Baylor in Texas. I've had to move for many reasons, but one of them being the medical treatment, which I will go into with you.
Yes, so do you like to begin with how it started?
Yes, so in 2021, I was in nursing school, and they were going to expel me. They gave me no exemption, medical or religious, from receiving the COVID-19 vaccine. In response to that, I felt I had no choice, and I went in to receive the vaccine. Within minutes of being injected with the first dosage, I was on the floor, 911 was called, and they rushed me to the hospital. They refused to do any tests on me while I was in the ER and also in the ambulance, despite the fact I was in and out of consciousness. I was having tremors, my heart rate was going crazy, and they did not do those tests because they said, you're probably just an anti vaxxer freaking out. So later,
So they said those exact words to
they
you.
did. Yes, the nurse in the ER, as well as the doctor that came in to just look at me, do no tests, be like, you're fine.
Wow.
Following that, I went home, and over the course of a couple weeks, my symptoms started to develop. At first, they started out like long COVID symptoms, the extreme muscle aches, just not feeling very good. But then they developed into tremors. I started having neurological tics. And then later, I started developing seizures. Those seizures ended up being grand mal seizures. I was having several of them a day, lasting up to half an hour to maybe even 45 minutes. I had one. And then, despite all of that, I was still being refused treatment by every single hospital in the Bay Area and private clinic in California. And we started searching the rest of the state. And then later, the following year, I became paralyzed. The spike protein in the vaccine passed the blood-brain barrier, and it demyelinated my nerves. And so, following that, I was in a wheelchair. And the crazy thing is, I had no pre-existing health conditions. I was a competitive athlete. I was going to do triathlons right before I got the
Wow.
vaccine.
So sorry to
And
hear about that.
I had no family history of any of these medical conditions. I developed several more than I'm listing out right now. And unfortunately, that's what happened. And um, nobody would treat me. Out of all of California, you see they have these bills and legislation that they just passed. Treating vaccine injured is labeled medical misconduct because under medical misconduct is COVID misinformation. And you're spreading COVID misinformation if someone got injured by the vaccine. So they take away licenses and practices. And that's what happened to every person, every physician or nurse that tried helping me.
Wow. That's just really crazy. And I hope you're doing better. Um,
Yes. They following that, I was lucky to find a doctor, and the thing is, they told me I wouldn't make it. He was the one person that treated me. My family, with their holistic medicine that they researched on their own, kept me alive well enough for me to get on treatment. But if it weren't for that one doctor, I would not be here right now.
wow. Well, we're happy you're here because we
Thank you.
need a lot of young, great people in our generation. And one last thing to kind of close, what advice would you have going through all that to where you're at today, standing as such a courageous lady? What advice would you have to somebody who might be going through it, not maybe because of the COVID vaccine necessarily, but through a medical thing like that that's very serious? What would you tell them if they're going through the middle of that right now?
I would say you have to keep fighting. There were several moments where I knew if I gave up, if I just let myself slip away, I wouldn't be here. So keep faith, and you have to keep going. And also, despite the fact that my classmates, the professors, nobody believed what I was going through and what the cause of it was, there will be proof later. And you need to keep fighting despite all of that. And that's specific to the COVID vaccine, but also to other health conditions. Because I know as a neurosurgery student right now that there are a lot of just random diseases and disorders popping up. Oh, you were perfectly fine one day and the next you're not. Where did it come from? Can't be the vaccine. It's like we need to have research in that going on, and that's another thing that's a big problem. We need to start researching these things, and we can't just sweep it under the rug like they're doing in the medical community.
Very good point. Well, thank you so much for stopping by to take time with the Jacob Viewer Show. I really appreciate it, and that story really touched me. So thank you so much.
All right, thank you.